Sure. Okay, I'll just want to carry one. Can I leave my purse also here? It's okay. इसको यार थोड़ा टाइट करो, इसको टाइट करो, इसको टाइट करो, नहीं टाइट कम, टाइट करो, इसको ऑन करो. चलिए. Good afternoon to all of you. So I guess you are already knowing for what we are here. So before I'll tell you about PSIR, let me brief you something. You know, in journey of civil services, optional is very crucial. And it is not only just to be into the services. It is to ensure your rank, your whole life, your whole career. Although we take a lot of decisions in haste and we go for any of the optional, looking into what most of the students are opting, or some senior family members had advised that we go ahead with that. But I always said this, being into service or to get into the service, it is not only your knowledge, your skills are very much important. You know, every year, almost, I'm talking about serious candidate, those who write mains, is 10,000. They all are good. They all study throughout their, you can say, school times to colleges. And they all are good who qualify prelims and write mains. But still, few only make final list. It is not the difference of their knowledge. The way they represent their knowledge. Think it like this. Suppose you become IAS officer or IPS officer. So is it your PSIR knowledge or your PubAd knowledge or any subject of knowledge of subject is going to help you a lot? Answer is no. It is your skills. So actually optional subject is a way to test your skills. Now even choosing an optional is also a skill. And okay, I would say like this, when you start preparing for UPSC, when you see your syllabus, and you see the syllabus and sometimes you find, okay, this is a fixed syllabus, the moment you see the paper, it is entirely different. So how come it happens? Paper is different, syllabus is different. Because syllabus is always indicative. This is just an indication, this is the direction of the syllabus. And what you have to do, you have to understand and analyze in such a way that you will be able to land on the answers. If you check out prelims paper, every year it continues to change. And most of the students run behind current affairs. Ki, sir, is baar current affairs se bahut aage hai. It is not. Because they always look for your skills. The same stuff, same content, everyone studies. But few qualify, few are not able to be in. So it is not always about knowledge. One more thing. If it is all about knowledge, those who are gold medalists, those who are toppers, those who have done masters, PhD, they should qualify. Students in their first attempt just graduate, they qualify. Student writing 5 mains, student writing first mains. First mains score more than the student who is writing 5th mains. So what is the difference? So understand one thing, ki knowledge, definitely role of knowledge is there, but role of knowledge is very limited. The most important part is your skills. And your skills start when you choose your optional, the way you interpret your syllabus of optional as well as GS. Now, why I said that choosing optional is a skill, because you are going to take time of hardly 10 to 12 months for your preparation. This is the effective time you have. Technically it seems to be 15 months, but this is the effective time you have. Now in this time you have to complete your entire GS part as well as optional part. How you can prepare your optional so it can reinforce your GS should reinforce your optional. How you manage, you can say your mains examination, so your optional can continue to help you during your GS part. Now, lot of optionals are there. Why I am saying for PSIR, there is a reason. ये तो सबको पता होगा कि PSIR has a lot of convergence with general studies. When we talk about PSIR and general studies, and if you try to identify in GS paper 1 or in GS 1 only, you can find out entire social issues. You will find out post-independence consolidation and so on. That is from paper 1. But again I am saying, it is not the convergence that is enough. What is more important? If you find that there is a convergence, then how you are preparing syllabus, like PSIR, it can reinforce you. Suppose in paper 1, in PSIR, I am teaching you Western political thinker, and you are at the same time in general studies you are studying constitution. It is not going to help you much. But if you are studying in PSIR paper 1 and you are studying some portion of ethics, not all, some portion of ethics. Normally for ethics I would say I have a different opinion. For ethics, we see it as just a paper and we prepare it once we complete the syllabus. I believe that ethics paper continue with the whole preparation. Almost every and each subject has a bit of it, and PSIR is maximum. When we talk about Aristotle, Plato, then you'll find this is also mentioned in your syllabus. These thinkers are in paper 4. In fact, 1 year they had a direct question, Rawls' theory of justice in GS paper 4. And in paper 1 also you can find this Rawls' theorem of justice is there. So it is very much important that while preparation you can go along with what exactly is common. Just convergence is not going to be enough. So let me say like this. Until unless you understand how you are going to approach that subject, that is not going to help you a lot. Nature of political science is like this, it will help you a lot in your overall preparation, but definitely your approach should also go along with it. Okay, let me give another example. Like when it comes to GS2, in GS2 you'll find out polity section, this social justice section, IR section and governance section. Now, when we are studying this PSIR GS paper 2 without modern India, it will be difficult. And in PSIR paper 2 there is a IGP, Indian Government and Politics. When you continue with this, it's going to help you a lot. Now, what exactly I'm trying to convey you guys? Choosing optional, then preparing for optional, complementing it with GS is a key that will help you to revise as much as you can in a very short period of time. Sometimes student, they don't have time to prepare for or essay separately and they directly go and write. But actually they prepare essay throughout their preparation. In PSIR, you'll find out all these things are there, and definitely when I'll start my classes, I'll discuss everything. Even when we talk about Western political thinkers, I talk about how it is connected with the GS 4 paper. When we talk about, I guess last 3 years, they are asking consistent question on international ethics in political science paper 2, that is IR part, global governance. In that we talk about United Nations and other institutions. We see the debate of developed and developing countries. That is part of your international ethics part. But if you know, but just the moment, just you know the approach, you'll be able to write it. So my point is very simple and easy. But this PSIR is going to help you a lot in your general studies. Almost GS paper 1, GS paper 2, in GS paper 3, that is internal security. In GS paper 4, lot of convergence are there. Essay is there. See the script of interviews. Almost 60% of the question they ask related to international relations, or they talk about national politics. And even you can say, apart from this GS paper and interview, it will also give you outlook to study the different subject. Even in economy also, you have to study political economy part. My point is, this subject helps you a lot if you hold a correct approach to study it. And there is a lot of convergence with the GS. And that is not a flat convergence. We are not talking about this topic or these topics are matching with these topics. I'm not talking about. There are many topics which are not matching. Just changing with the approach, you'll be able to hold it. You'll be able to do it. Now, one more important thing. This is what strategically we find a lot of convergence are there. What could be another reason when we look into why should we go for PSIR? If you see trends, I guess from last 7 to 8 years, maximum students, see the UPSC report also, maximum students are qualifying. You know, every subject has a average mark. Average mark means like the total number of a peer student for the mains, and what is the average mark of that subject. The highest average mark of the subject is of political science. Definitely that is not 300. That somewhere 230. That is the average marks. And I'm saying that anyone who prepare normally and able to write all the answer in general sense will be able to score this much. But if you put extra effort, then scoring 300 is not a big deal. I mean, I remember a few of my students, those who scored 325. You might be knowing Rishabh Mandal was there. There are many students who scored 325, 329, 319. Even last year only, you can find this 5th ranker 314. And there are many students who score this much. So, in terms of high score, which will place you with your desirable service, this subject can help you a lot. With the political science, you can, if you put little bit more, you can go ahead around 300. As I said, average marking, why I say ki when you go for a subject, average marking is very important. The reason being, ki if 2 or 3 students are scoring 350, but maximum score students are scoring 190 or 210, then average score is going to be very less. But with this subject, average score is very high, that is 230. And there are many students who were around 300 or cross 300, and that is with a very simple effort. It is not like you need to be very technical, and you might be knowing that most of the students, those who are scoring more than 300, they never had a background of political science. Their engineers hardly studied 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and they're still able to score. But when you look into maths, when you look into other technical subject, their background is important, those who are scoring very high. But with this subject, average score and even scoring high become very easy if you go with a proper approach to that subject. Guys, my understanding about political science is very simple. These subjects, in a very simple words, will really help you to reduce your journey. If you are going for 2-3 years, in one shot you could be in just because of optional. One of my students was Abhishek, his name was Abhishek. His general studies average mark was less than 80, 85, almost in every subject. It's because of this 319 in political science is into the service. There is a one Arvind student, 1, 2, 3 rank. There are a range of the numbers. You will see their marks, you will realize that it is just because if anyone went for beyond 300, they are able to into the service. Even some mistakes has been made in your general studies part. So what I am trying to tell you guys, if a subject that help you to score this much, so it actually compensate for your mistakes also. Like this is always true. I mean, like if you talk to your seniors, those who are attempting 4th or 5th means, they say कि यार इस साल पेपर इस पेपर में नंबर नहीं आया, इस पेपर में नंबर है. ये जो this trend is there when sometimes people are not able to score in all papers equally, that compensate. That is why always look for a subject which holds the potential to score more than 300. This is a very important part. Without this, your journey will be maybe get for one more extra year, because then balance in all GS paper your score should be high, expecting 260, 270 in your optionals. So sometimes if something happened to your GS paper, then again next attempt is there. So always choose a subject which give this edge. Even if you make some mistakes, maybe deliberate, maybe not deliberate, then there is a last, I would say, last arrow you can hit, and still you can be in the race and you can be into the final selections. So guys, this is a general, you can say, introduction of this subject. Personally, I believe that it's a very interesting also, maybe that only you come to know once you study. But in terms of qualifying examination, it is going to help you a lot in terms of covering GS, in terms of scoring high. And one more myth is there, which I'll change it when we talk about it is a very big syllabus and it is difficult to prepare. Sometimes students think that it take 7 months, 8 months. If you see, or you can contact that, whatever the planner I have provided, hardly needs 4.5 months. Hardly needs 4.5 months. Although there are some way to prepare it. Fine guys, so before I go to detail about political science and analyzing its subject, let me introduce myself. My name is Piyush, Dr. Piyush Kumar Chaubey. I did my master's, MPhil, PhD from JNU. Don't judge me please for this. And then I was teaching in Delhi University in Jamia for long time, and gradually this market started offering me a lot. Apart from satisfaction, some other gains are also there. So gradually I finally I finally resigned and I'm full-time teaching for civil services only. So guys, let's talk about PSIR. Let me give you some specific thing about this subject. Every subject is having 2 papers, so it is also having 2 papers. Paper 1, Western political theory and thought. Second paper is IGP. And paper 2 is technically I would say IR theories and some more additional topics like comparative politics, and 1B is all about India and world. That is your general studies part. That is your general studies part. Now, first important thing, we know, I mean, like this is, I personally believe it is a purely a misconception that its subject is too long, or it take a lot of time to cover, specifically this part, Western political thinker. So actually UPSC, designed this syllabus in terms of the topic. Few things has been ignored. For example, they ignored their chronological order and there is a repetition. I'm saying 2 things. Chronological order, they didn't go for, if you talk about Plato, in your syllabus Plato is mentioned at 12th topic. And Plato and Aristotle, thinker, they are before Christ. And topic like nature, meaning of political theory, that is your first topic. It is very boring also. Until unless you understand the rest of the part, it will be very difficult to go for this part. And as I am saying, it is a lot of repetition. So if you reorganize your syllabus, then it is going to be very short. There are at least 4 topics you can easily eliminate. Okay, I guess everyone is having syllabus. नहीं है सबके पास? कोई बात नहीं, अभी आ रहा है. चलिए मैं थोड़ा सा आपको आइडिया देता हूं. जैसे सपोज आपको एक टॉपिक है आइडियोलॉजीज. देयर इज अ कंप्लीट टॉपिक ऑफ आइडियोलॉजीज. This in topic of ideologies, there is Marxism, there is liberalism, and separately there is Karl Marx. Gramsci. There is separately Karl Marx, Gramsci. Now, if you study what is ideology of Marxism, actually it is idea of Karl Marx, Gramsci, and if I add Lenin. So if you are separately studying these 3, technically you are not required to study it separately. That is mentioned in topic 8. Now what I did, in your syllabus, Lenin is not there. If you see question paper, sometimes they ask Lenin. So I altered the syllabus little bit. I went for adding something. Like in your syllabus, I added Lenin. So if they ask question from Lenin, you will be able to do it and you will be able to complete the topic of Marxism. In a similar way, there is a topic theories of state. That is topic number 2, theories of state. In theories of state, there is Marxist theory. There is Marxist theory. Now, Marxist theory of state, what Karl Marx idea of state, what Gramsci idea of state, what Lenin idea of state, what Mao idea of state. So technically, it is repetition. If you study it well, then there is no requirement to going for theories of state again. There are many topics. If you just rearrange the syllabus and we connect them logically, your syllabus at least, I would say, 20 to 25% is going to reduce. And one more thing I would say, there are a lot of topics which is not mentioned in your syllabus. This syllabus, you know, this syllabus was designed last time in 2000. In 2012, they changed the pattern, not the syllabus. This was the time when I was appearing for interview. So this is the same syllabus what I have studied. It is not the different syllabus. But UPSC started asking many new things, which is not part of your syllabus. So upgradation is equally important for this syllabus. So many new topics I have added. I talk about Lenin and Mao. Apart from that, like topics like multiculturalism, communitarianism, these are all the new trends, doctrine of sufficiency, all the new debates that I have already added in this syllabus. So this, with the upgradation of syllabus, trying to give it a logical arrangement, and once it happens, so what we do? Like we prepare it in relatively short period of time. At the same time, we cover all the new topics what UPSC is asking basically, and making our answer more contemporary, making our answer, I would say, competitive. Because writing a traditional way of, writing always about what is, what happened before 50s or 60s, talking about what the new development that happened in 2000 and onwards. Like, let me give one example. there is a topic of equality. This topic of equality is contradictory with the liberty, or liberty is contradictory with the equality, or both goes together. This debate is quite old, but there is a new debate. It's talk about doctrine of sufficiency. Okay, should we look for equality or we look for sufficiency? This debate start in post 2000. That is not mentioned in syllabus. In any of the book what you refer for the civil service, it is not mentioned. But if you can add on such new developments, it make your answer more contemporary and more scoring. Let me tell you guys, seriously, those who score 300 plus, they make some extra effort. It is not just mugging something and writing will lead you to that. And what those extra effort, this is what I said. Making your answer more contemporary, going for the new development. And you need to go for just references. I mean, there's no need to read a complete book, but you should know about, although I provide all these things, this is the new book, Hit the Market. We know 5-7 lines, what is the core of it. You just paste it in your answer, you add on 1 extra mark. There are 24 questions normally in one paper. Scoring 1.5 marks in every question will take you to 300 plus. And this scoring 1.5 mark comes along with some special effort what you made for. And this is what I'm talking about. So if you arrange your syllabus, in a logical manner, if you add on few topics which is technically not mentioned in your syllabus, so you will be upgrading, you are making your syllabus contemporary, and you are reducing your syllabus too and making it more relevant. आपको मजा भी आएगा पढ़ने में. And apart from that, it will be connected with your general studies part. It will be connected with your general studies part. So this is related to paper 1. This is related to paper 1. We can reduce almost 20 to 25% of syllabus just adding and subtraction of this. One more thing I would suggest for this subject. Normally, when we prepare for an optional subject, we do not look in a strategic way towards that subject. For this, we need to. In fact, in my class, I'll go for that. How it is. There are one paper, I mean, any of paper students like, they stress too much over there. But technically, paper 1 also includes holding the same marks. And those who are preparing with the political science, please contact them. They'll tell you they spend 70% of the time studying just only one paper. That is this paper. This is one of the biggest mistake. And this is just 25% of your syllabus. Maximum student, talk to your friends, maximum student spend 60 to 70% time of preparation just preparing Western political thinkers and theories. And marking of the Western political theory is just 125 marks. IGP, Indian Government and Politics, it is also having 25 marks. इसको कोई पढ़ता ही नहीं है. क्या करते हैं? Lakshmikant. Although that is not sufficient for GS2 itself. But most of the students. This is a big strategic mistake. Talk to those guys who are scoring this much. They'll tell you sometimes they prefer to attempt more questions from IGP section rather than from this section. So this strategic approach in balancing your subject is equally important. It's very equally important. So if you'll go with like providing maybe not 60-70%, provide 40% time for this subject and go with the equal part. I mean this paper 2 part also is like ignored. I mean, I don't understand General Studies IR, how it is going to help you in PSIR IR. I'm not saying different, but there is a difference of depthness. There is a difference of understanding the subject. But again, reading newspaper is enough for PSIR. No, it's not. There is approach, I would say that. In General Studies, you may stick to a lot of informations. But for optional theoretical frameworks, basic understandings, and the way you represent it, that is very much important. I mean, look, the basics of the foreign policy. Let me give an example. When we talk about West Asia, I guess everyone understands where is West Asia? So Indian foreign policy towards West Asia, if I say it is oil centric, it's based on oil diplomacy, based on Indian diaspora working over there. So you may have good facts, but unless you understand why there is this much of Indian diaspora in West Asia, you won't be able to write PSIR answer. The population of West Asia is quite good, then why diaspora is this much high? Let me give you in terms of percentage. Let's start with Dubai. You know, in Dubai, workforce, I'm not talking about total population, in workforce, diaspora population is more than 85%. Can you imagine this? More than 85% is diaspora population in workforce of Dubai. मतलब आप किसी ऑफिस में बैठेंगे तो 85% लोग बाहर के होंगे. In general, there is a 50% diaspora in Saudi Arabia. Everywhere you can find. Now, very simple and easy question. Why it is so? Why there is this much of diaspora is there? Why there is this much of diaspora in West Asia? So you will gradually understand it. Like West Asian social and political condition and their economic conditions. There is complete mismatch. Okay. Let's understand like this. West Asian society is relatively backward. To be particular, education system, skill development programs, they all are introduced post 2000 onwards. They have one of the biggest university, King Abdullah University. But if you go with the curriculum, you'll surprise. The curriculum is highly conventional in nature. Check out sometime how many engineering colleges are there, how many medical colleges are there. You'll find very less. Because of the social factors, their research base, their skill base is not that much evolved. But economically, they are at par. So they need very skilled stuff, skilled people. They are looking people from outside. Apart from that, because of the oil economy, per capita income is very high. They have a huge petrodollars. People are rich. So why they should go for their all normal works? For the blue collar job also, they need people from outside. So there are logical ways. I'll just add on. You know, in diaspora, there is a NRI and PIOs. NRIs, those who are Indian passport holders working outside. PIOs, holding a passport of the other country, somewhere at point of time was in India. आप मुझे बता सकते हैं कि अमेरिका में NRI ज्यादा है कि PIOs ज्यादा है? Surprising, PIOs ज्यादा है और थोड़े बहुत नहीं है. There is a 10 lakh population of NRI and 40 lakh people are PIOs. Look at this ratio. Now in West Asia, you will find PIOs are hardly 1 lakh and more than 30 lakh population is actually NRI. Just opposite. There is a phenomena, we call it twin migration. Okay, twin migration का मतलब होता है कि once you are economically well, you look for quality of life, then there is a switch. So there is 0% of twin migration in West Asia. West Asia एक ही purpose से लोग जाते हैं. That is only making money. But in America and Europe, it is not just only making money. So people who become rich when they first move to Africa, Caribbean, Southeast Asia, second they all move to America. That is why Indian population in America is this much. It isn't like they moved in the first wave. They moved in the second wave. और जितने आपको NRIs दिखते हैं, सब post 90s में गए हुए हैं. So in PSIR basically we see the things from perspective. We are trying to look into the things कि why this phenomena is happening, and it automatically help you. If मैं GS का एक सवाल बता रहा हूँ आपको, अभी मैंने थोड़ी सी इंफॉर्मेशन दी. GS में एक साल सवाल पूछा है कि what is old diaspora, what is new diaspora, right difference between old diaspora and new diaspora. मैं एक इंडिकेशन दे रहा हूँ. Old diaspora, those who moved before 50s. New diaspora, those who moved after 50s. Old diaspora का destination Southeast Asia, Caribbean and Africa है. New diaspora moved to Europe, America and West Asia. Now you can yourself write who is more organized, where people are blue collar job, where people are white collar job, who are working as a pressure groups, you can easily understand. And now if you understand that West Asian democracies are, West Asian countries are not democracies. They are mainly monarchical states are there, or semi-democracies or states are there. And it is because of that political organization pressure groups cannot be over there. That is why it is a government of India that is dealing for the welfare of their diaspora to the government. You cannot find that. Look at total diaspora of India in West Asia is near about 30 lakhs. In America only it is 50 lakhs. But diaspora is not in political agenda between India and US. They never go and discuss, Indian Prime Minister discussing. But every time when we go to West Asia, we discuss this. What is the reason? Answer is again simple. Because of the political system. US political system is very much democratic. So these organizations are quite active. People have their diaspora organization. They work as a pressure groups. But in West Asia, because the political system is non-democratic. So what happened? It is the government of India need to negotiate them, talk to them. Now, in PSIR, once you develop this type of basic understanding, you will be automatically writing so many answers. आपको GS तो फिर लगेगा तो simple है एकदम. Because in general studies, our approach is more what? We see the things more from a, I would say, informative perspective. There was a visit, this agreement has been signed, what was a part of this? Sometimes you read some brainstorming article, then you understand, okay, what was strategy? But here in in PSIR, it's all about strategies only. Nothing, no step is done without any, you can say, pre-planning. ऐसा थोड़ी होता है कि only a morning our Prime Minister said कि चलिए इस बार जापान चलते हैं. ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं होता है. It is all pre-planning. It's all decided where they are going, for what purpose they are going. अगर आपको एक बार बेसिक में ही समझ में आ गया कि whenever there will be a visit to China, data is fixed. Agreement is fixed. मैं अभी से बता रहा हूँ. Agreement is fixed कि आप किस पे बात करोगे. You are going to talk about only on the economic sphere. You look forward to collaborate with China in certain of the global governance part, and you are going to, if one step ahead, then you are going to talk about your border dispute. You are not going to sign any security or strategic treaty with the Chinese. West Asia fix hai. It is going to be oil diplomacy. It is going to be Indian diaspora. It is going to be anti-terror cooperation. It is going to be security of oil corridor. It is all fixed. If you pre-hand know the basics of the foreign policy, then the rest of the things are merely information. Okay, last time our president or prime minister visited, so they talk about $10 million deal, and now they are talking about $20 million deal. Or earlier they got 1 million of oil, strategic oil reserve, now they got the 5 million of strategic oil. केवल data बदलना रहेगा आपको, only data. आपको अगर basics में अगर एक बात समझ में आ गई कि what we are looking for. Students are also thinking for political science, it is a very dynamic subject. Definitely it is a dynamic subject. But it is not dynamic in terms of that every day or every week our foreign policy is getting changes, our IR get transformed. This is a big myth or misconception. कि 3 महीने बीत गए लगता अब IR क्या, अब तो सब बदल गया यार. ऐसा बिल्कुल नहीं होता है. Till date, you can divide Indian foreign policy. It was a Nehruvian foreign policy till 1966. 1966, Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister. Within 2 years, she reformulated Indian foreign policy. That continued up to 1990. Even Rajiv Gandhi continued with the Indira policy, Indira doctrine only. Although sometimes he failed to understand. Just give a glimpses. सबको पता है श्रीलंका में Indian peacekeeping forces गई थी at the time of Rajiv Gandhi. You know, it was demanded way back at the time of Indira Gandhi also. She never agreed. There were some strategic imperatives involved in that. I'm not saying that we were training LTT people, but I'm just trying to tell you basically that there are a lot of strategic angles was there. And it is because of that, Indira Gandhi was never agreeing that the Indian forces should go on. Rajiv Gandhi failed to understand. He was not a politician basically. He was a dropped politician, one day flying his plane and finally found himself as the Indian Prime Minister. So when Sri Lankan diplomats ask him, okay, if India is a guarantor of peace, then why don't you send your peacekeeping forces? उनको नहीं समझ में आया, भेज दिया उन्होंने. It completely deteriorated everything. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Ki even he tried to go with the Indira Gandhi foreign policy. In post 90s, our foreign policy's nature gets shift. Earlier, why I say Nehru and Indira Gandhi, but post 90s I'm not talking about it was Indra Kumar Gujral policy. We are not talking about Narasimha Rao policy, because for every and each reason we started diversifying policies. So we talk about like Gujral doctrine, later on neighborhood policy. We talk about LEP, lookist policy, to now actist policy. We talk about Wana policy. We talk about look west policy. Now we do not talk about on the name of the Prime Minister, because the vision for every and each region has changed now. So till date there is just the three era of foreign policy: Nehru, Indira Gandhi, and now post 90s. Indian approach also has changed a lot. I mean, I'm not saying earlier it was an idealist one, but now it is more pragmatic one. We are really looking for becoming a global part, so a lot of new deals and new things are in that direction. So my point is that this is a myth for political science, that you have to study, changing international relations. Once you have an in-depth understanding of foreign policy, you need just to change the data, just to come up with every visit and what new data is generated, your basic frame of answer remains same. It remains same. तो फिर इसमें dynamic क्या हुआ? Dynamic तब होता है when there is something which is impacting regional structure, global structure, then it actually leads to changes. For example, if the Russians went to attack kahan? Ukraine. So it is impacting NATO's structure and the way NATO earlier carried its foreign policy. Whether the European Union is insecure or looking further towards Americans, there's two different trends. The few countries which was not part of NATO, they are looking to be member of NATO. But at the same time, Germany increased its defense budget, started looking for its own way of handling the threats. Now it has an impact. I guess in this situation only, India went for importing oil, looking for will get sasta oil. India में तो ये सस्ता जहाँ मिलता है हम लोग पहुँच जाते हैं. So, but this was a very good strategic approach, and now Russia is going to be the second, I guess, supplier after Saudi Arabia. It has a direct impact over India's look west policy. You know why Americans, why West Asians before 90s never supported India? The Saudi Arabia was very much in favor of Pakistan, and over Kashmir they make a lot of comments. What happened that after post 2000 they started, completely transformation is there. One of the reason you'll find out, just one reason I'm quoting, because Americans' import of oil has drastically reduced. Because of the shale gas, one point of time America was importing 40% of the oil from there. Now there is no American import, very less. किसको तेल बेचेंगे ये लोग? There should be. देखिए, entire Europe import oil from North Africa. The nature of oil is also changed. That is a sweet oil. So West Asian oil can be purchased only by two big players. थोड़ा तो सब लोग oil ले जाएंगे. It is China and India. So India-West Asia relationship improved a lot in post-2000 era. This was one of the factor, that oil policy. So now if Iran has gone, our oil import to Iran is almost finished, and Russians are emerging as a second. So does it going to impact Russia-Pakistan-China nexus? Does it going to impact Indo-Pacific politics, Indian approach in West Asia? It is not only interesting, guys. I'm telling you, once you understand the basic, this analysis become very simple. And with this, you'll be able to write any of the answer in your general studies. Until unless they are very particular, कोई particular चीज पूछ दी तो अलग बात है. इंडिया, जापान और इंडिया, यूएस, ये सब तो आपको ऐसे लगेगा कि सिंपल और इजी है. तो अगर आप बेसिक्स समझ लेते हैं, if you are able to understand the very basics of the Indian foreign policy, if you understand the foreign policy in global structure, in regional structure, everything has been done. So what I'm trying to say here, this is a complete myth that IR continue to change. It remains static for a long time. Changes are there once some big structural changes happen in global politics. Otherwise, it remains same. Second important thing, we have to study bilateral relationship with somewhere 50 to 60 countries. Again answer, इतना तो आपके syllabus में भी नहीं दिया, लेकिन लोग बात करते हैं कि 50-60 देशों के साथ पढ़ना पड़ता है. I'm pointing out 7 countries, only 7 countries. Check out your question paper of last 10 years. इस 60 country के अलावा कभी बाहर पूछा नहीं है. It is going to be US, Japan, Russia, China, पाकिस्तान और एक पूरा साउथ एशियन ब्लॉक मान लीजिए, साउथ एशियन ब्लॉक और कम हो गया, इसके बाहर नहीं पूछता है. और इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट ये है कि आर्बिट्ररी कुछ नहीं पूछा जाता है. ओके, let's understand it like this. They are not going to ask about India-Rwanda relationship. They are not going to ask about, India-Somalia relationship. They are not going to ask. Indian foreign policy towards Africa is actually multilateral. They will always question India and Africa. They'll talk about problem, challenges, new approach of India. 100% beyond this, they are not going to ask anything. Because Indian approach towards Africa is a multilateral. It's not going to be like India, I have given example, India, Mali, or India, Egypt. No. Similar in Latin America also. It is going to be India and Latin America. It's not going to be India, Brazil. Although our relationship is improving a lot. I can say this, even in case of Southeast Asia, we have a very good relationship with the Vietnam, but they are not going to ask. It is always going to be India, Southeast Asia. So, foreign policy and even UPSC questions are not contradictory. They understand what is the approach of the Indian foreign policy. You will get the bilateral India-Japan, you will get the bilateral Indian-Russia, you will get the bilateral India-China. So this way you can easily map hardly there are 7 to 8 states where we have to go with the bilateral relationship. 2-3 blocks are there and 2-3 international organizations are there, through which we can map the entire entire PSIR paper 2. Again, खैर जीएस पेपर 2 तो पढ़ते ही नहीं है, मतलब ऑप्शनल पेपर 2 तो पढ़ते ही नहीं है, 10 दिन में लोग पढ़ खत्म कर देते हैं. इट हार्डली टेक 25 days, 30 days with the in-depth understanding, and this also needs, its total allotted marks is 125. I don't know why we ignore such kind of distribution in GS paper, in optional paper 1, paper 2 A and B, 125 marks. And if you attempt 3 questions from this and 2 questions from this part, 2A, comparative politics, this is the key. Now check this again. If you see last 5-year toppers, those who score more than 300, one of the key factor is PSIR paper 2. Scoring 170, 165, that's become easy. And again, because mapping this India and world is very easy, attempting 3 questions from this part and from 2A part, just identifying theoretical areas, which is quite interesting also, lot of new examples are there. और मजेदार बात है कि 2A में जो theories पढ़नी है, whatever the theories we study in 2A, उसका application है ये. So when we are talking about realism, the example में we need to talk about India, China. When you are talking about neoliberal policy, we have to go along with India, America and Indian Russians. When we talk about what's the Indian approach towards our neighborhood, we have to talk about social contractualist. So my point is social contractualist. My point is that whatever the theoretical part is there, this is their example part. This is very much connected with each other. Normally in paper 2, I teach basically by mixing both of the paper. When we study comparative politics, I go separately. The moment I enter into IR theory part, so when I'm teaching you realism, so without understanding India, China, realism cannot be explained. So obviously, studying realism, half of the China will be completed. We'll take a separate lecture on China, so we'll be able to understand how Indian policy towards China is under the framework of neo-realism. My point is that if you mix it, it becomes a little bit more easy and you reduce your syllabus. This entire paper 2, I'm talking about entire paper 2, can be easily prepared max in 2 months. And maximum score, if I'll take the reference of my old students, they scored around 173 to 179 marks, just in only one paper. There was one student, his rank was not that good, is Anand Prakash. This guy has scored 173 marks in GS paper 2. Even in reserve also scored 170 plus in this PSIR paper 2 basically. So there is a space of scoring 170. Although this is an exceptional score, I'm not saying it is a general score. But scoring 140 plus, that become easy. Once you have a proper approach of it, give proper time it and respect also. Understanding it as a part of political science. Not understanding it कि अच्छा GS वाला part है ये तो. This is not. If you give enough time to this, you can score quite good. So these are the specific myths around political science. It's a vast one. Paper 1 needs more time than paper 2. In paper 2 we have to study lot of countries. And most important thing, paper 2 continue to change. So this is how I explain it. If you are clear in your basics, only in basic information. Now, in what sense is it dynamic? This is important. In what sense it is dynamic? ये बहुत बार आता है कि political science बहुत dynamic है, कैसे संभलेगा? In what sense it is a dynamic? There is a 2-3 reasons. When we talk about Western political thought part, Western political thought part is not very much dynamic, specifically when it comes to Western thinkers. Political theory part is relatively dynamic. Why it is dynamic? It is dynamic because if you are willing to make it dynamic, means if you are ready to go with the new developments to write, then it is a dynamic. Those who are not, they are still writing old in traditional way, they go ahead, they score 120, it's fine. But if you are looking to score more, update it little bit, come with the new debates. It is dynamic in another way, because most of the modern debates can be traced from here. Okay, there is a one topic in paper 1, affirmative action. सबको पता है affirmative action का मतलब क्या होता है. So you can easily connect it what is happening around. There is a topic of feminism. You can connect it with many of the government policies also. There is a United Nations also passed a resolution inclusion of women in peacekeeping forces. That goes along with this. There are a lot of modern debates. The role of state. Now policy of neoliberalism, most of the states are following it. So it is a dynamic in that sense because it has an application. It has an application. So rather than sticking to the old examples, if you go with the new examples, it is a dynamic and the scoring is quite good. In paper 2, the dynamic part is only informative. But you need to have a deep understanding of basics. Dynamic part is if there is a change. If there is a structural change, as we talk about the war, we can talk about like this COVID. COVID also impacted the existing world order and the rise of China. Now these are the things, if it happens, then some big changes are there. Otherwise, it is small changes and new information is there. Definitely, it is the way you perceive and you write it. It matters a lot. Because if you try to be update and use new examples, this is going to improve your score only. In that sense, you can say it is a dynamic one. But its syllabus is not that much vast. If you logically try to, you can say, arrange it basically. Scoring is with the GS also it goes. चलिए, अगर आपके पास कोई सवाल है, if anyone is willing to ask any question regarding this. Question is that how you divide into general studies and optional subject. Look, while studying your optional, there are certain GS which can be easily complemented it, as I was talking about. Okay, when you're studying Western political thinkers part, what topics of general studies you can study. When you're studying IGP part, what topic? I mean, like studying IGP part, this is the best time to study politics, मतलब polity. Because if you study polity with IGP section, it will help to prepare your general studies paper from pre as well as mains perspective both. But if you're not studying at the time of IGP polity, you're studying something else, it is not going to help you. So if your general studies preparation will be properly tuned with your optional preparation, it is going to reduce your time. It is going to make your studies more effective. And overall, I would say that the converge area, you can utilize it in a very good way, basically. Or देखिए, जो India's freedom struggle, what we study in IGP, that is more from political perspective. कि how it is going to lead the develop of modern political institutions. If I say how Indian Constitution has been formed, so you'll realize that during the freedom struggle, when new stakeholders are arising, let's take it like this. Earlier, Congress was leading the entire national movement, and it was the elite and urban section. After Gandhiji entered into the movement, then you'll find masses started being part of it. Then after 1920, it was the worker class movement. Then peasant section was there. Even Dr. Ambedkar was leading Dalit section over there. Now this all culminated lot of sections of the Indian Constitution. How Indian Constitution is so inclusive. It is just because they set the ground earlier during the national movement, basically. They all are the stakeholders. That is why this has been included in our Constitution. So perspective का फर्क है. जहाँ स्टडीज में हम थोड़ा इंफॉर्मेटिव होते हैं, यहाँ कॉन्सेप्चुअल ज्यादा होते हैं इंफॉर्मेटिव होने की बजाय. यस, ओके. Normally I suggest that my lectures and the notes what I am going to provide, that is going to be enough, because myself read a lot, so I include almost everything what is the new development is there. And even if you have to study lot of books, why to go for coaching? तो खुद से भी पढ़ के किया जा सकता है. देखिए, ये सब्जेक्ट ऐसा है कि आप खुद से पढ़ के कर सकते हैं. The difference is the timing. Now I can finish it in 4.5 months. You will finish it in 1 year. That's the difference. And you have to go for some books. My notes, my lectures are going to be more than enough. उसके बाहर जरूरत नहीं पड़ने वाली. Okay, now this is a very good question. Like every time we talk about scholars' name to be quoted in your PSIR. Let me tell you, when it comes to paper 1, when we talk about Western political thinker and theory. So quoting a scholar here is all about legitimize our arguments, or whatever the question has been asked, we are trying to answer with the different scholars. This is also true that we cannot claim to be expert on Plato and Aristotle. We haven't researched on that. So obviously we rely on the scholars, what they exactly talk about. If we write something with our general understanding, we provide backing, or we justify that with the quoting of the scholar. That happens with the Western political thinker and thought part. That is why scholars are considered to be very important for this part. Now when it comes to the paper 2 part, here also A very good question you asked. In IR section, actually, foreign policy analysis is also from the different perspective. I mean, let's take an example. C. Raja Mohan may have a very different approach when it comes to the Suhasini Hatter. I'll take some big scholars' names. If we talk about Mir Simmer is a realist basically. His understanding of the Russian war is entirely different when it comes to the, you can say, Russian diplomats, specifically Kissinger. My point is that foreign policy holds the different perspectives. So when you give the reference of the scholar, you try to open the different dimension of it basically. That is why we say ki whenever you are writing that, give the quote and reference of that scholar. This is not a one punch line of a scholar, analysis of that scholar. This is again a misconception. If someone thinks that just giving one punch line by a scholar is enough in PSIR, no. We talk about analysis of that scholar regarding that. So, for example, if S. Jaishankar has said Europe's problem is words problem, but words problem is not Europe's problem. Now this is a one-liner, but just writing this is not enough. What is context of this? Is it about being assertive foreign policy, or it is all about asking Europe to be proactive in Indo-Pacific region, or it is all about to understanding geostrategic imperative for India and other in context of the Russian war? That was the basic thing behind this. So just quoting is not enough. You need to come, or you need to write it in a proper context. That is why scholar's name become very important. For this also what I did, that I publish a magazine every month that is dedicated to the PSIR. And that magazine is all about reading Hindu, Indian Express, different websites like IDSA, ORF. We go through this and we identify important topics, what we think that it is important for exam, and we compile it basically. So a scholar's thing and what articles should be read, we try to solve it, because this is again a challenge, because this is, you know, it is like in the market, okay, PSIR optional, every day at least 2-3 articles from Hindu and Indian Express are from website specifically related to IR. But again I would say this is not required actually. Just to satisfaction, this magazine is there, you can refer some good gist of the article, that will work. Yes. Yes, in-depth knowledge of PSIR can be properly used in GS paper 2. But again, for GS paper 2, you need to have little bit more factual information. When IGP, when talking about precedent, so obviously I'm not going to talk about methodology of election of president. We'll talk about whether the president can be considered as a rubber stamp or not. We are going to talk about the debate of power between president and prime minister. So for basic factual information, you need to rely with the basic books basically. But this is all important for a mains examination. Fine guys? Or? Thank you. My suggestion is very simple. There is no need to prepare notes from this newspaper, because पहला तो वो जब आप नोट्स प्रिपेयर करेंगे साल भर बाद उसको ढूंढेंगे कहाँ रखा हुआ है. नॉर्मल यही होता है. अगर कटिंग काट लिए तो फिर तो 100% नहीं मिलने वाली है वो. तो इस सब की जरूरत ही नहीं है, कोई जरूरत नहीं है. क्लास और ज्यादा है PSIR का मैगजीन, दैट विल हेल्प यू. हाँ, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ना नहीं है. इट सिंपली मीन्स रीड न्यूज़पेपर इन अ जनरल वे. बहुत सारे लोग न्यूज़पेपर उसको एकदम स्कैन करके याद रखने के लिए पढ़ते हैं. वो प्रैक्टिकली पॉसिबल नहीं है. दिस इज इम्पॉसिबल टास्क that you read every day newspaper in such a way that you are going to retain all information what you have studied. It is impossible task. This is not going to be. The purpose is just to retain the basic perspective, ideas and few information. And that if you read times, many times, different article on the same topic, you develop a perspective. That is why we suggest that go with the newspaper. लेकिन याद करने और रटने के लिए newspaper पढ़ना ही नहीं चाहिए. This is not going to work. Look, you understand, like, not to be carried away with the subject. That's very much true. I mean, after studying this subject, there is going to be drastic change, specifically in way of thinking. That's I promise. But we need not to be carried away with the subject, because being an officer, your prime task will be to solve the whatever the problem or challenge is there. It's not all about you should become biased. So read it as a subject. For your personal understanding, you may get the different perspective, views and ideas. That is for your personal understanding. But when you write, अब ऐसा नहीं कि मार्क्सिज्म आपको बहुत पसंद आ गया, लिबरलिज्म नहीं आया, तो उन्होंने आप क्वेश्चन का टेल है, डू यू अग्री दैट द लिबरलिज्म इज अ गुड आइडियोलॉजी, आपने कहा नो आई डोंट अग्री विद दिस. उसकी जरूरत ही नहीं है. वी हैव टू राइट आवर आंसर, दैट्स सिंपल, एंड वी हैव टू स्कोर. That is our target. And whatever you understand it, that will help you in building your personality. उसका वहां ज्यादा योगदान है. ठीक है? Yes. I guess we are done. 90%. Thank you guys. Thank you to all of you.